It's episode 54 of Chit Chat, and do you know what it's like to be underappreciated? Some games sure do, so we're here to point out a few that deserve a little more love. And speaking of love, Jeremy's wife took him on a trip to Galaxy's Edge, so you'll hear a little bit about that too.
Welcome back to Chit Chat. This is episode 54, and you're going to notice that we don't have David here. That's because he is stuck up north.
Yeah, we have some bad weather here in Indiana right now, so roads are really bad, but I still came.
And I'm trying to get back into the swing of things because I just got back from vacation, Disney World.
That's right.
3 days of parks. It was awesome.
Galaxy's Edge, right?
I did go to Galaxy's Edge. I'll talk about that later. But
I'm sure
anyway,
you will.
before we get into today's topic, which is not underrated games, because probably some of the games we'll talk about have been rated really well from other reviewers, but we feel like these games have been underappreciated in 2019. So we're going to give a small list of those games that we think should be on your radar, even though you may have heard about them and they weren't on someone's list, but they're still really good games. But before we do, we're going to have a giveaway from last week.
Yeah, congratulations, Brittany Morgan. You have won It's a Wonderful World. So please email us at manvsmeeple@gmail.com. And today we're giving away Machikoro Legacy. So make a comment, interact with us, and you'll be entered to win that game.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about underappreciated games. We want to make that very apparent right now. It's not underrated games, because more than likely a lot of these games were talked about in 2019. But maybe they weren't talked about enough. Maybe they didn't hit enough people's top 10 lists. People weren't talking about them now going into 2020. So we want to kind of feature a couple of those games that we still own and we still are playing going into 2020. Kira, do you want to start?
Oh, of course, he starts with me. So I had a hard time with this one because I feel like a lot of the I feel like there are a lot of games and that I go, well, but I know people were talking about them. So the first one I'm going to start off with, and I feel that it's underappreciated just because the value and the width and the depth of the game offers, in my opinion, of what it can do is Quirky Circuits. So Quirky Circuits from Plaid Hat Games it's a cooperative game where you're programming to have these little miniature robots moving around a board doing a task of some sort. If you have a cat who's picking up dust bunnies on top of one of those little Roombas, you've got a robot who is a dish at a restaurant moving dishes around. And the reason why I think this game is underappreciated is that I think maybe it gives off that it might be for kids, and I know I use it in my robotics club. But it's super fun. I actually just showed it to my friend John D over the weekend and let her take it with her so that she could enjoy and have some fun with the game herself. But it's absolutely for all age ranges, and you can play it as a family. I kind of changed the rules a little bit for my robotics club to allow a slight rules change in order for them to get some understanding that I can then tie into our robotics club. But it's a really great game, and it offers so much more than just what you see on the surface, and it teaches cooperation, but at the same time it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you played Quirky Circuits yet?
I have. We put it together at maybe Origins last year?
It
Yeah.
was Origins.
Yeah.
Seems
It was
so
a lot of
long
fun.
ago.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of really good stuff that was being shown at Origins. It came out at Gen Con, and this year for Gen Con was huge. I just feel like a lot of things, there were a lot of games that came out at Gen Con that were all very good, but because so much came out, just some things fell under the radar.
There was 10,000 new games came out last year.
Yeah.
Even great games are getting kind of forgotten about this year.
Yeah. I mean, Quirky Circuits is one of those games that can be easily forgotten because, as you said, the artwork's very, very childlike, and it's a very simple game to play. So once you've played one scenario, you pretty much know how the rest of the game is going to fall out. It's just going through those different types of scenarios and adding, tweaking a couple rules here and there that change the format. But it is a super fun game because you are all cooperating. And obviously the cool hook there is you can't talk about the cards you're playing. So you have to kind of deduce what they may be using and which direction they're moving that character.
Well, and to your point, you get to some of the later missions, and they actually have missions that are built for one of two characters. So you can choose the character you're going to use and kind of advanced moding it. There's some advanced cards you can add in as well. And then, like I said, for robotics purposes, I actually tell the kids to talk in between rounds about what their strategy is, because that's what they have to do in competition for the robotics club in order to make sure they're on the same page before they start just laying down cards to lay down cards. And I found it's a really great teaching tool, but I have fun every time I play it, no matter who I'm playing it with, and it's a great game.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
I have 2 games I want to talk about. One of them is Undaunted. Now, I know that a lot of people did talk about this, and I've seen this on quite a few lists, but I feel like this game can also kind of fall to the wayside with all the new games coming out on the tail end of 2019, then going to 2020. But it's a really cool, and it's World War II, which I love, but it's a really cool deck building game. It's got some slight deck building in it, but it also has area control, and you're constantly trying to debate on what the other player is going to do, what cards they may have in their hand. And it's a game of attrition, so the cards that you're building with are also the cards that are going to be lost during the game.
Yep.
It's just a super fun game, and they just announced, I believe, an African campaign for it too. So it's going to change and add some additional soldiers. But the one I really want to talk about, and I may be way off kilter by saying that it's underappreciated, but it's Expedition to New Dale. With Maracaibo coming out at the same time, which is Alexander Pfister's other game, which is the one that everyone loves.
Sure.
And being that Expedition to New Dale is basically just a gamified Oh My Goods, a lot of people are going to forget about this game. And to be quite frank, a lot of people like Oh My Goods better because it's a simpler format. You just have the cards and you're playing and that's it. However, I played all the way through Expedition to New Dale. I played all 8 of the scenarios with my wife, and I really enjoyed the game. I love the tableau building that you're putting on the top and the bottom, making those decisions throughout the game, and the fact that it is scenario based. You can go through the first couple, chapters of it, and a decision that you make can change the other chapters and how they fall out. So there's a little bit of a tree on there on the way the game plays. Plus, there's, I believe, 8 different boards, 4 boards in the game, and they're all double-sided. So each game that you play is going to be a little bit different than the previous game. And if you like Oh My Goods, and especially if you like Alexander Pfister, like all of his games are really, really good for me. They all push that button of just heavy decision making, decisions that have repercussions throughout the rest of the game. I can't suggest this enough, and I hope it doesn't get overlooked because I think it just is making its way into the States on the tail end of 2019 or just in 2020, but I know it's out here. It's available in the States.
Yeah, I'm hoping it will become more popular over time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because honestly, that one popped in my head as we were sitting down to start because it's one that I've been thinking about because we played it and I haven't played it again since, but I would like to, but I haven't really heard anyone talking about it.
No.
It's a great game.
No.
So I've got 2 as well. You want me to do both of them?
Do both of them.
All right, so the first one is Space Explorers. This is a game, I'm not going to say that it was like my top game of the year because it wasn't. But when we played this game, I considered it to be a Splendor killer. Yeah. It's just that same level as Splendor. You're kind of collecting like astronauts and you're building this tableau of like matching these colors. And the variety of engines you can build in that game. It's
far more gamified.
So gamified. And there's so much you can do. So many cool things. And when it came out, it got a lot of buzz. But then I feel like people just forgot about it. And I think that's a shame because I think anyone that likes Splendor, this should replace it. This is the next step from Splendor before you get into, your heavier games.
Yeah.
Like this is still pretty lightweight, but it was just, we had a blast playing it.
They did a really good job of capturing the 1960s space race look too.
Yeah, they really did.
All the art's really, really indicative of what the art was back in the 1960s.
And the components are all super high quality,
Yeah,
and the gameplay is fun. I think anybody that buys this game would not be disappointed by it. And I'm surprised people didn't embrace it, or I'm just not hearing the buzz about it like I expected to hear.
Sure.
And the other game I'd like to talk about is Wayward. And this was this is an interesting situation. It's a fully cooperative game. We actually did a round 1 playthrough of this game, and it was going to Kickstarter, and then Barnes & Noble got interested, and Barnes & Noble bought it instead, so it didn't end up going to Kickstarter. It ended up going straight to Barnes & Noble to be an exclusive, and I think because of that, it just fell through the cracks from a lot of people that didn't get that Kickstarter hype engine that it was expecting. But the game, if you like co-op games, this is one of the better co-op games I've played, and I don't think you like co-op games, and we still managed to have a pretty good time playing it. It's one of those games of like all good co-ops where you're constantly feeling like you're bailing the water out of the canoe as it's sinking. But for those who don't know, it's based on a comic series that has these monsters attacking Tokyo, and you play as almost like a superhero team. It's comic book,
It's Image Comics, right?
I think it's Image.
Yeah.
And you're basically moving across these districts in Japan, fighting all these monsters, but you have to, like, your resources are really tight, and it's very easy to spend everything and just have nothing left. And I found a lot of clever decisions and a lot of variability. There's a lot of different monsters to play, and every monster, kind of like Aeon's End, every monster has its own deck and its own way to win and victory conditions. So every time you play this game, it's different. And I think the gaming population would really embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just, like I said, just kind of got forgotten about. It just fell through the cracks. So
Gives me a very Persona vibe.
yeah, it really
PlayStation
does. Like
Persona,
the kids fighting against the monsters or Oni or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Barnes and Noble. So most people I know that played it just happened to find it at Barnes and Noble and love it. But yeah, I think people need to get out there and start talking about it.
A lot of underappreciated games in 2019. We could go on and on about it, but those are just a few. Let's get into the games we played. And I just got back from Disney, so I didn't play a whole lot of games. I can talk about Disney all day long now, but we'll start this way and go our way back around. What have you been playing?
Well, I've been I guess the first thing I want to talk about. I finally played Railroad Revolution for the first time, which I've never.
That's
played.
What's Your Game, right?
Yeah, what's your game?
Yeah.
And you've talked about this game for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those ones that I've always wanted to play. And I really I don't like 18XX, but I do like train games of all other types. And I played it with the expansion. So I jumped right in with the expansion. And the expansion takes what is a good game and really elevates it.
I heard they've addressed a lot of the issues, too, with the base game.
Yeah.
Supposedly there were some strategies in the base game that would just flat out be impossible to beat.
Yeah, I could see that because after we played, I said, okay, so tell me how you scored in the base game. And we talked about how you scored in the base game. And so it gives you this board. It's almost like 2 tracks. And you can claim objective tiles during the game, and you could put them on these tracks, and you could spend your movement points to move these up the tracks and make their multipliers higher. So if you're scoring 2 points for every city, you can move it up. Now you're getting 6, now you're getting 12, whatever. And the original way you scored, there was just everyone scored the same ways based on your telegraphs. So it just gives you a lot more to do with your turn and a ton more ways to score. I mean, it's like a huge point salad thing
It's been a long time since I played that game. I think we actually reviewed that in 2017.
Yes, it's been
when
a while.
When it originally came out, but we haven't played it since. So I'd be interested to see what the expansion adds.
I'll play it again.
You play anything else, or is that it?
You'd ask me that right now. My brain is just not working.
All right, I'll go.
He's ready.
Like I said, it's been a while. We just got back. We did a 4-day stint at Disney World, just my wife and I. Did 3 of the 4 parks because we've already done Magic Kingdom with our girls several times. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Rise of Resistance. If you guys are Star Wars fans, you have to go on that ride. It's so fun. Anyway, rewinding back a couple weeks prior to that, there's some games that we played. One of them is Stay Cool. It's a really fun party game. You talked about it on Rewind. Mm-hmm. It's super, super fun. You're taking a new role each round, so you may be a timer, you may be the person giving questions. Super cool game. I'll throw up some pictures. That's enough of that. Marco Polo 2. My wife and I have been playing a lot of Marco Polo 2.
Yeah.
We've been playing a lot of Isle of Cats. I think I've played Isle of Cats more than any other game in 2020. Probably close to 9 or 10 times.
Wow.
Super fun. We introduced it to neighbors.
It's like your new Wingspan.
It is kind of like my new Wingspan. It's just, we did a review, and the one thing I don't like about it is the art, but the gameplay is so good. Like, there's so many cards. I love games that give you a giant stack of cards, like 150 cards, and you can pretty much get a different game each time you play. Just kind of like Wingspan. Each time you're going to see a different bird. This time you're going to see different cards every time. A couple games that I cannot wait to play. We've been sitting on a copy of Etten, and I didn't bring it here.
Yeah.
It is a new game from WizKids. It is played in teams of 2. It is a drafting game that you can play in about 45 minutes, where the player to your left is going to be your teammate, or right, however you sit at the table. And then you're playing against other teams of 2. And you can play, the rules say you can buy multiple copies and play, 10 teams of 2, however many you want to play.
It's simultaneous.
It's all simultaneous as well. And it looks very, very interesting. I read through the rules. I'm super excited to play it, and I left for vacation right before we could schedule a night to play it. So interested in that. And then, of course, Villainous. David doesn't like Villainous. I don't know why. I understand that it can be random at times, but I love Disney. And I'm super excited because we just got Perfectly Wretched, which has Steamboat Pete, and all the cards are black and white.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
It just speaks to me. Like, I love black and white art, so
My
really excited to play that.
favorite, one of my very favorite cartoons of all time is Building a Building, which he's in that, and he's like the mean foreman.
Yeah, that's old school.
That's like the
Yeah, it
original
is.
appearance of Minnie. So I love that cartoon. So I'm super excited to see how it looks on the table.
And that's all I have. Other than that, I've spent the past month, which you can't see here, we tore our old set apart. and we were building a new set because it's been 3 years since we started MVM, and we thought we needed something new. It's going to be versatile. It's going to do the same things. We're going to have reviews, previews. We'll probably move Chit Chat to it, maybe some new programming to it from time to time. But I'm really excited for this new set. We spent better part of a month, over a month now, ripping it out and rebuilding it from scratch, and it looks good so far. It's about 90% done. Very, very close. But
Yeah, it does look good.
and you'll see more of that soon. Anyway, games you've been playing.
Oh goodness, I am in a little bit of the same boat. I went to Arizona, and I was there for a class, and so I didn't have a ton of downtime. But during one of our dinner breaks, I did break out Medium.
Cool.
This is a group of non-gamers. It was like a communication class type thing. So I thought, what a great game to take with me just in case we have the time. And they had a lot of fun playing that. I played a few things that are getting ready to come to Kickstarter. One of them being Cinder from Smirk and Laughter. And I don't normally like push your luck games, dice things and things like that, but it's just such a silly premise. And I have so much, me and reading, I have so much fun reading all the profiles of all the different dragons. It's a game about dating dragons, like Tinder, but for dragons. And you get the little profile and you fill it out. It's just so silly and fun, and I get a kick out of it. And so I showed that to some friends over the weekend. And then we played Sorcerer City this week on this live stream, which I was just...
Was that your first time playing
It was
that
my
game?
first time playing it,
Interesting.
which was... probably, I said this to you after we got off air. I said, I wish I had played it at least once before.
Oh, because it's real time, right?
Because it's real
Threw
time.
you off?
And I knew that.
Yeah.
And I watched Rodney's video to learn how to play, and I read the rules, and I went through it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is, I get this. Like, it's simple enough. I get it. But there's something about just having some of that previous knowledge of how it all kind of plays together that would have benefited me. I didn't lose by a ton. But real-time games, I don't think that I would like to play real-time games on the live stream going forward, because it was very stressful to manage the game and the comments and knowing what I wanted to do.
Wait a minute. Just because you're bad at real-time games, I'm bad at dexterity games. Does that mean I don't have to play dexterity games? Because I will lose dexterity games almost every time.
I just mean maybe we need to flip the roles then, because if you're more comfortable with it, it was a lot for me to manage.
It is a lot. The game is stressful.
For a live stream.
When that timer starts going down, and we use the app, the music starts picking up pace, and when you get down to like the last 30 seconds, it starts like flashing.
But don't you have like 2 minutes at the end of the
We actually
game?
gave ourselves 3 minutes.
They let
Wait,
there's
what?
easy,
That's way too
normal,
easy.
and hard. Well, I had not played before, and so we put it on easy mode for me. And I did at the beginning. I was like, oh, I said, should we? And he said, well, by the time we get to the 4th round, you're gonna be glad that we're on easy mode. And he was right. I did have a few times I didn't finish my tiles, and I didn't even pick up as many tiles as you. But I'll tell you the thing that I love about the game, and I can't wait to play it with more players, which is where I think the game will shine with more players for me and my group, is that the enjoyment of all the wonderful things about the game. It's a beautiful game on the table. The coins are really cool, and
Coins are awesome.
I love the deluxe edition of the game, but the base regular edition of the game is also just very pretty, and no surprise from Skybound and Druid City. They do a really nice job with production. So
if we're talking about things we're excited about, I have 2 things waiting at home that we'll probably talk about next
games?
week.
I didn't think about things.
Well,
I'm
2 things
excited about.
one is the Heaven and Hell expansion.
I've had that since
You got it since
I
Essen.
still haven't played it.
I had to wait for it to come over. The year Heaven and Hell came out, that was by far my most played games. It was one of my top games of that year. But it's just gotten a little stale because I can just basically now kind of do the same thing every time I play this game.
Right.
So I'm really interested in adding this expansion. And the next thing is Wrecking Crew just came out for Marvel Champions.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spend every chit chat saying, oh yeah, I played Marvel Champions. But I probably played 10 games over the last week. I'm always going to be playing Marvel Champions probably in the future. And so I'm really excited to get home and play Wrecking Crew and see how different it is.
Well, cool. Let us know what you've been playing. That is episode 54 of Chit Chat. Again, make a comment below to be entered to win Machikoro Legacy, and we will see you guys next time.
Well, that's another episode of Chit Chat in the bag. Thanks for watching. If you want to check out another one, there's probably one right over here in the bottom left-hand corner, or probably your right-hand corner. Whatever corner, we have something to click on. So click on one of these things and good things will happen.